Okay, so here we are. This is part 2, which I believe is actually part 14 of this study. We're looking at Isaiah 33, verse 17 here. And he says, your eyes will behold the king in his splendor. They will see him from a faraway land. Your heart will muse in dread. Where's the one who counts? Where's the one who weighs? Where's the one who counts the towers? What does that even mean? Verse 19 says, you will not see bold people, the people whose speech is too difficult to understand, of garbled tongue without comprehension. Behold Zion, verse 20, the city of our Moedim, our festivals. Your eyes will see Jerusalem, the tranquil abode, the tent that will not be displaced, whose stakes will not be uprooted forever, and none of whose ropes will be severed. For only there will Yahuwah be our Gabor, our mighty one. A place of wide rivers and channels, a boat can't even traverse it, a mighty vessel cannot cross it, for Yahweh is our Shofet, our judge. Yahweh is our lawgiver. Yahweh is our king. He will save us. And then it goes on to say, your ropes have been abandoned. And then you look at the rabbinical commentary in the bottom of Stone Snock here and says, well, now he's talking to the Assyrians and saying, you guys are going down. You got ropes on your ships that you think you're cruising in here to take over, and your ships are going to fall apart. Your ropes will all of a sudden disintegrate. There's a story that 1 million-man army had come from Cush to invade Jerusalem. I think it might be in the book of, it might be in Chronicles, actually. Anyway, the point is, 1 million-man army had come from northern Africa to invade Jerusalem, and because Jerusalem had done total corruption, and the governors, the rulers of the people in Jerusalem basically held a prayer meeting, and they said, okay, we admit we've done stupid things badly and wrong. We're dirty, rotten sinners, and but Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh's vote of our people Israel, you're our only hope. You're all we got. So please help us. Please save us. Please forgive us. We're your people, and we've really messed up. But please help us. And Yahweh basically said, that's all I needed to hear. And he turned, and gosh, you know what he did to those 1 million-man army? Mice got into their stuff that night, and it ate up all their ropes and all their like burlap sacks. So all their food dumped on the ground, and all their gear came loose, and they couldn't put anything back together. Their shoelaces came untied, and they couldn't retie them. It was like, what? And they turned and they skedaddled out of there. And they had come for a major siege of 1 million people against Jerusalem. I don't know how far from the city they were at that moment, but when they turned and ran, the people from the city of Jerusalem came out and it's like, hey, there's all this stuff. They were under siege. They had a famine. They had everything destroyed. And here was the full provision of 1 million-man army brought to their doorstep, dropped, and the 1 million-man army took off running. Oh, that's our Elohim. That's the kind of stuff he does. So what I wanted to bring out was this verse of 17. So if you look down here in the rabbinical commentary for that verse, it says, he does not let unsubstantiated talk incite him to bloodshed. What? Isaiah addresses the righteous people described above, and he's saying, I looked at a number of different translations of the Bible for these verses, and they're saying, where's one who counts? Well, that's like the bankers. Where's one who weighs? That's the merchants, or that's the guys that are making a tally of all the loot that they just pillaged from the city. Where's the ones who count the towers? Well, that must be the Assyrians who are calculating, the strength of the fortifications so they know how to lay siege. And that's what everybody thinks this verse is about. A number of years ago, I looked at this, and if you look at the words, your eyes will behold the king in his splendor. What if he's talking about Israel and from a faraway land? Well, from distance, both of space and time, presently in America, we're on the opposite side of the world from Israel. That's distant. 2,000, 3,000 years later, that's distant in time. You will behold to see Resh Aleph Hey, Hey Nun Hey, behold, lo, here, pleasantly, the Melech in his splendor, in his Oz, in his majesty, in his Gadolness. Well, the king is Melech. So if I looked at verse 17 here, it says Melech, Mem Lamed Kaf, Bet Yod Pei Yod Vav. Well, the Jaffa gate in Israel, Jaffa, Jaffa gate. Well, that's actually Yod Pei Hey, Yafa, which means beautiful. This is Bet Yod Pei Yod Vav. Well, Vav suffix is his, so Ifi, Yod Pei Yod is actually the word for beautiful. But they say, your eyes will behold the king in his splendor. But I'm just trying to show you, see, it starts off with the word Melech, and then Be'ifio, the Vav suffix means his, so you could translate this king, Bet prefix means in, Ifi would be his beauty, king in his beauty, and Tav, Chet Zion Yod Nun Hey. Well, Chet Zion has to do with some sort of a vision. Chet Zion Nun. So what I'm just trying to say that the way to analyze these verses, you can't read the English words because the English syntax, the mind works different. So if you want to know what you're reading, you can't figure that the first word in the sentence is the first word in Hebrew or nor the last, but you have to learn how to break that down a little bit. But see, the word Melech is not just king. Melech is, mem is the prefix, means the place or the one who or the time at which, or it can also mean away from. And then there's Lamed Kaf, which is the word lakah. Well, hey Lamed Kaf, halakha means walking. Lamed Kaf, like that name of the parashah, Lek Lakah, where the first two words, Lamed Kaf hyphen Lamed Kaf, Lek Lakah, Abraham is told to get up and get out of his land of his fathers to go to the place that Yahweh was going to show him, which ended up being the land of Canaan, the land of what would become Israel. And so Lamed Kaf means to go, walk, do as you're told, as it were. So Lamed is this letter that speaks of authority, and Kaf as a suffix can mean you. So Mem Lamed Kaf, though it's translated king, in the dictionary it says one who takes counsel. Where's the word to take counsel? Lamed means teach and learn. So the letter Lamed, teach and learn, and then the Kaf suffix means you. You who are taught and learned, the mem, who teaches you? Well, a king doesn't listen to anybody, but a king is like the president has a cabinet. The king has his counselors. The king's job is to make rulings like an Aleph Dalet Vav Nun, Adon, Adonai. That's the one who makes determinations, but he doesn't personally go out and investigate and get all the information. He says, you go find out this, you go find out that, you guys go and get the information and bring it to me, and I will assess the information and make the determination. That's the king's job. So Melech can be read as one who takes the counsel and makes the determination. You don't have to be a king. So when he says Yahweh has hidden, it's the glory of Elohim to hide a matter, and it's the glory of kings to discover the matter. King of what? Do you have to be the king of Spain? Do you have to be a wealthy man living in a palace? Does it mean you have to be as wealthy as a king to afford a college education, and it's your grandeur, your glory, your esteem to go out and then investigate, search out knowledge in a library to learn how to read? But if the word Melech can be taken as one who will simply take the regard of the Lamed, the Torah instructions, take the regard of the Torah instructions that were told, this is how you are to walk. Lamed Kaf. So you can be a Mem Lamed Kaf, a Melech who discovers and finds the things of Elohim by simply choosing to attend to his voice and listen and do what he said. If he said, do not work on the Sabbath day, that's the sign that you're my people. You want to be his people, quit working on the Sabbath day. And if he says that's just at the beginning, that's where it starts, then any other voice to the contrary is not his voice. Oh, but the Holy Spirit told me. It doesn't matter. Bad Holy Spirit. Yeah, but Jesus, whoa. If the pretend or presumed Messiah, Savior, Christ figure of the world tells you that his apostles, disciples, emissaries, pastors, prophets, priests tell you that the day doesn't matter, it's a lie. So he, that one with that label, hi, I'm the J man, is a liar, is a pretense. That means it's satanic. That means it's a apparition of the father of lies. It's not the real Mashiach, Yahusha. Can't be, because he would never say that, and he would never teach or allow, he would never give his spirit to his disciples, his Talmudim, his taught ones. He would never condone his Ruach to encourage his taught ones to not regard the Sabbath day. Therefore, it must be false. See, I have to be able to analyze memming, analyzing. What value do I give mem? How do I appropriate what mem means? Is mem water? Is mem being of the flesh? Is mem a womb? Is mem the laver? How do you memming so that from noon, from mem comes out noon? Mem is a place, noon jumps out of that place. See, it all goes back to what value of distinction, of definition, do you give every letter? What then is a melech, a mem lamed kaf? The place of pondering, of taking it to heart. Taking what to heart? The lamed, the Torah instructions. What did he tell you? What did he lamed kaf? What is it? Ma, mem, hey. What, where, why, how? Lama, lamed mem, hey. Why? Lama, sabachthani. Why have you forsaken? See, if you know the meaning of the letters, it's like mem is this what? Why? How's this work? It's this place of the pool of your own meditating, pondering, musing, figuring it out. Be'ifio, in his beauty. But yet, why is the word pei, the open mouth, the thing of beauty? And jump ahead here. They will see him from a faraway land. They will see him from, is that a consciousness? Is that a time? Is that in America? Is that being able to see the beauty, the glory of Elohim as an American in the 21st century, or wherever you happen to live, China or Zimbabwe? Or then it says, where is one who weighs? That's kind of like saying, where's one who will gadar? Where is one who will weigh? That's the word for shekel, shin kuf lamed, which means, what does this cost? But kuf lamed is something that's light or easy or of disregard, but it's also grievous and difficult and hard. It's both, because each word can mean both things. But kuf lamed or kuf vav lamed also is his voice. Shin can be the prefix of that which belongs to. It's like to listen to Elohim's voice and either take it as like, whatever, it doesn't matter what he told those people a long time ago, or to say, oh, it's too burdensome, we can't possibly do it, or to say, I'm going to make it my passion to regard what his voice said, every letter of every word, and I'm going to understand and comprehend so that I can do it with the intensity of my life as an obed to him. That's all shakal. It's just translated, where's one who weighs? Where's one who counts? That's the word for count is sefer. Where's one who will sefer? Samik pei resh. Count is also memnun. Shin memnun is the word for oil, which also means count. Where's one who will sefer? That's connecting the dots. That's like drawing the constellations. It's a regard of Samik is an engineered structure. Pei is a mouth. Pei resh is the word for bull, B-U-L-L, or it's the word for fruitful, peri. Sefer is also where we get the word cipher or decipher. Where is one who will sefer the migdalim? Mem, gimel, dalet, lamed, yod mim. Well, it's calculated, count the towers, sefer the migdalim. That must be those Assyrians conducting the siege, where they're counting how many towers and figuring out where they can get in, be through the defenses. And it's like, what? If I choose to regard this as simply a way of telling how the Assyrians were attacking Jerusalem, but I can say to sefer the migdalim, what is Gedal? Gedal is ribboned, festooned, celebrated. Gibor, Gimel Bet Resh, is heroic, but Gedal, that's celebrated with outrageous pageantry, braiding of hair, ribbons and bows and tassels and flags and banners, and it's the big celebration. A tower, put the mem in front of Gimel Dalet Lamed, and picture that comes to my mind is like at Disneyland or Disney World, and they've got the Sleeping Beauty castle or whatever, Cinderella's castle. I think there's two different ones at two different Disneylands, but man, they got the fireworks and they got the lights and they made that thing look as spectacular as they could. Crazy Ludwig's castle. He tried to, it was in Bavaria or something. He tried to make that thing look as ornamented, as grand, as impossible to build as is humanly possible. How do you make something great and majestic? That's the word migdalim. To say, where is one who will sefer the migdalim? Is it about the castles? Is it about the turrets on the war of a puny little city wall? Or is it the meaning of the letters? How do you sefer the 22-letter sequence? Now that's weighing, that's counting, that's migdalim. And so regardless of how anybody else might translate this scripture and think it's about a historical event or think it's about some sort of military engagement, for me to engage severing the migdalim of Yahweh's Avot as a military engagement, and then I could take the New Testament statement that says we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers in high places, and it's like, we fight not against. What's the word for against in Hebrew? Well, it's actually the letter bet. It's a prefix letter. So when it said of Ishmael, his hand will be against his brothers, or it said the same thing basically about Esau, it's his hand bet, Yodalit. Yeah, but that can also mean in, his hand in the hand of his brothers. Well, is it in, is it with, or is it against? It's all just the letter bet. So it's like, if the letter bet can mean with, but it can mean against, which is it? Tell me. It's both. Do you choose to have your hand in this guy's hand or against this guy's hand? It's whatever you choose to make it, depending on how you choose to read this. For us to right now be severing the migdalim of Yahuwah's words and letters. Well, wait a second. Going back to the original, where are we on the eschatological map? If something rising up is kuf, reshin, where does it come from? Well, the dormant winter, like the shakad, the shin kuf dalet almond tree that jumps out of the ground as soon as it can, Well, that's Zodi, because Pe is an open mouth. Zodi is this resurrection, this flourishing, this blossoming, this yeah. So Pe Zodi is that event. It's a picture of Yahusha bursting out of the grave after 3 days and 3 nights. It's a picture of Israel coming back to the covenant of Yahuwah as his people. It's a picture of Israel coming out of the dispersion after nearly 3,000 years. It's a picture of the mouth opening and the flowering, which is this language being restored. And as we've talked, even the Jews say amongst themselves in their teachings, the head rabbi from London, as I said before, I heard him give a speech on the internet where he says, it's the language, it's the Hebrew language, which ties all of the people of the Jews together. Well, it's not just the people of the Jews, just they're the only ones that seem to have gone on record of acknowledging Hebrew. It's the house of Israel, the 12 tribes. It's the language. And what's in the language, which is the Ephi, the beautiful mouth of Yahuwah, us taking it to heart, which makes us Ayin Mem, Am Israel. Well, if that's what's happening right now, then the eschatological map can be seen as the 22-letter Hebrew alphabet. And we're at Pezadi. We're right where Yeshua burst out of the grave as a type, as a pattern. Well, remember when Yahusha came out of the grave, he hung around for 40 days before he poofed up into the air. And as the disciples were looking at, whoa, what just happened there? What? Then the angel said, what are you staring at, boys? He's coming back the same way, Well, that's Kuf rising, that's Kuf coming back. Well, that hasn't happened yet. But what's happening by this study of Gadar, translating, giving definition to these otherwise obscure and bewildering matters, verse 19 of Isaiah 33, you will not see bold people, the peoples whose speech is too difficult to understand, of garbled tongue without comprehension. Well, Hebrew, from what I can hear, has been regarded as a kind of scary, kind of occultic, kind of only Kabbalistic, bold, awesome, difficult to understand, garbled, that's not comprehensible. And even still today, people that I've talked to have gone to seminary and Bible college. They don't really study Hebrew. It's like, yeah, whatever. They study Greek and then Latin, English. Well, I can choose to read this, that this is about this study. I can choose to believe that this occasion is the Pezadi. So in front of us is a period of time, just like the picture of Yahusha hanging around for 40 days after he rose from the dead. 40 days. It's like 40 years in the wilderness. They could have gone into the land. That 40 years in the wilderness is nothing sacred. That 40 years in the wilderness is plan B. Plan A was Elohim brings them out of Egypt and right into the promised land. He says, I've got it all ready for you. And they said, we're too scared. And he said, oh, man. And then they went after doing all these other stupid things. And he says, okay, that's it. You're all going to die. Why? Did they die because they had the golden calf incident? No, they died because they kept saying, you just brought us here to kill us. Was there not? They said of Elohim, so was there not enough graves in Egypt that you should have died and buried us there, that you drug us out to the wilderness? You're going to kill us and bury us in here? And he says, you quit saying that or that's what I'm going to do. And they kept saying it. He says, that's it. I've had enough. My dad used to say those words. I've had enough. You're going to have exactly what you say. You kept accusing me of dragging you out here to kill you. That's going to be your reality. This entire generation is going to die. Everybody from 20 years old and up is going to die in this wilderness, just like you said. And the very children you thought were going to be eaten by the cannibals, they will go in and they will eat the food off the giants, the cannibals' tables. And I'm going to give them their houses to live in. What? Oh, that's the reputation of our Elohim. You betcha. Okay. So who is this guy that we believe in? Well, if I read in Ezekiel 20, and that's kind of where we're at, the other day, 2 weeks ago, I was kind of reading through rather quickly, kind of a verse by verse sort of thing, and I ended with verse 33, which I'll repeat here. As I live, Nam Yahweh, Nam Adonai Yahweh, I will rule over you with a strong hand, with an outstretched arm, with outpoured wrath. Wham! Verse 34, I will take you out from the nations and gather you from the lands to which you were scattered with a strong hand and outstretched arm and outpoured wrath. What? He's using the exact same phrase. He said, you guys, this whole generation has made me so furiously angry that with this powerful arm, I'm going to get my reputation for how I smack my own people. That's part of his reputation. But he said, with that same powerful arm that I smacked you and drove you to the other nations, I'm going to grab you and drag you back. Grab us and drag us back. Not to beat us up, to lavish his favor when we listen to his voice and walk in his ways. Verse 35, and I will bring you to the wilderness of the nations, and I will contend with you there face to face, just as I contended with your forefathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So I will contend with you. It's like, yeah, they make him sound like such a jerk. But what is the word contend? It's the letter nun in front of the word shofet, which is the word for judge. And it's like, judge, it's the word for balancing scales. It's the word for making everything right. After all, he said that mishpat was the foundation of his throne. And this is the word for that. Shofet is the foundation, judgment and the balancing of scales, making everything right, making everything tov, making everything justice. I heard on the radio the other day, somebody said that the word justified, justification, big theological word, justification. It comes from the word justice, which comes from the word mishpat. So all justification means, from a theological, doctrinal agenda, doctrinal, dogmatic dogma, is everything you do is coming back on you. That's his mishpat. He always keeps saying, everything you guys did is coming back. Well, that means if you do righteousness, righteousness comes back. Hey, here's a good idea. Quit killing each other. Hey, yeah, why don't we do that? Let's quit killing each other. Let's quit lying to each other and robbing each other. Hey, what an idea. And what'll come back? Mishpat. Well, we just can't let it go. Well, we can't let it go. Okay. Well, if we can't let it go, then we're going to get it coming back on us. When he says, I'm going to take you to the wilderness of the nations, the word wilderness is bamidbar. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The word dabar is word, stipulation, matters. The promise of what's coming back on you. Mid-dabar, dabar, the place of words. I'm going to take you back to the place of words. Well, isn't that the study of this language? So I can choose to read that he says, when I pull you back from where I scattered you, I'm going to bring you to the language of, and the word nations here is not goyim, it's amim, ayin mem, yod mem. That's kindred people. I'm going to bring you to the place where all you descendants of the 12 tribes will have a common language. It's one way to read it. And I will balance things with you there face to face. Well, remember, Moshe met with him face to face, but then Yahusha said nobody's ever seen his face. Yahusha said that he was basically, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, but the Father doesn't have a face. So he somehow allowed this human thing, this human looking presentation, but the one we're supposed to worship doesn't have a face. So what does he mean face to face? It's the concept of right here together, right face to face, as it were. Face is P14 Yod, Panei, Lifnei, according to, in regard of, in the presence of, Mifnei, Lifnei, P14 Yod, P14, pan, to scan if the camera is panning, panoramic view. What's his face? Pan also means variety, sort, and type, and kind. Well, there's 22 letters of his. What jumps out of your mouth? What noons from the mem? What jumps out of the pool? The fish jumping out of the pool of water, the baby out of the womb. But what jumps out of your mouth? The pay is the mouth. Words. So you could say to comprehend the words jumping out of his mouth really is the word face. To comprehend the words that jump out of his mouth is the meaning of the word face. But P14 Yod can also mean to disregard and abandon. Well, that's what he said. If we didn't listen to his voice, if we abandon the words of his voice, then he will likewise abandon, like a bachelor or like leaving an apartment and going away on vacation, that kind of abandoning, forsaking, he will abandon his concern of us. That's the deal. That's the covenant relationship. So how does it get turned around? How do you balance the scales of a forsaken relationship is to re-engage the relationship. For us to re-engage the words of his mouth with our whole heart is an aspect of panei al panei, face to face. Panim al panim. He says, I'm going to take you into the wilderness, into the language of the kindred peoples, and I will deal with you there. Words of my mouth with words of your mouth. And out of the heart, the mouth speaks. So I regard the study of this language as being his heart, his face. And if I seem to be obsessed with this language, it's because I choose to be obsessed with the language. I have calculated of all the great things that exist in heaven and earth. I could have studied astrophysics. I could have gone to study medicine. I could have gone to study engineering. But I determined to study these words as being a greater thing to be about than any other intellectual pursuit on the face of the earth. And when I say on the face of the earth, because the word earth is Aleph Resh Zadi. And there's a word here, I think it's verse 41 of Ezekiel 20. It says, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to verse 41. Bet Resh Yod Het, Nun Yod Het Het, Aleph Resh Zadi Hei. Well, Ruach is Resh Vav Het. This is Resh Yod Het. And if you look in the dictionary, Resh Yod Het is pronounced Rich, because Resh Vav Het is Ruach. So Rich, well, that sounds like the English word, something reeks, something stinks, something, there's an odor, reek. That's what it means. It means a fragrance. Bet is the condition of rich. So like you smell something on the wind, is that good or bad? Doesn't necessarily say, but we think in English, if it reeks, it's kind of bad. Might be a skunk, might be a cesspool, might be some rotten eggs or something, dead body, sulfur. It doesn't have to be that, because bet resh as a word means pure and clean. Fragrance is just something that travels on the wind. But then this word nun yod het, double letter het, and it, nun yod het is the word for pleasing, aromatic. It's the word Noach is nun het. Restful, comforting. So you could read this as pleasing, comfortable, comforting, aromatic fragrance. That's like aromatherapy. It's like, oh. Well, that's supposed to be what the offering of incense by a genuine worshiper. is supposed to be. And then you see the picture of the altar of incense, and the beatitude that lines up with that is, blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see Elohim. Pure of heart? Are prayers like an aromatic incense? And then the next word, Alef Resh Zadi Hey. Well, Aleph is the prefix I will. Resh Zadi is to run with intensity, with desire, like, hey, I'm all about this, proactively volunteering, pleasing, acceptable, willingly. It also means to count. To count, well, that's like memnoon. That's like counting Sephering the towers. So it's written aretzah, but aretz is the word for earth, and hey is to express. But see, the word earth, aretz, Aleph Resh Zadi, can be read as I will run, or this is the course I will run, or this is the gamut to run. Aleph can mean first person present tense of identity and intent, but it might just be the concept of this is the thing that you do. So I could read Aleph Resh Zadi Hey is this is the obstacle course. And if the Aleph is the first letter and the Tav is the goal at the end, then there's a 22-stage obstacle course. Oh, where are we now? Hey, we're at Pei Zadi. Well, then what's in front of us is the meta, the whole idea of putting together this chart that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And what's down between Zadi and Kuf? Zadi, emergent, sprouting, reintroduction of the reformed from the yoke slurry, resurrected yet still in the material realm. Kuf, future realized. The hoped for is the opportune occasion given space to exist. Well, what's the meta in between the Pei and the Zadi? Kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. The sacredness of every piece made known, appreciated at value, in awe. It's like, well, there's the reality. There's what it really is. There's Yahusha coming out of the grave. There's Israel coming back on the scene. There's the language coming back at full Gadar value. See, once you see how it all fits together, it all fits together beautifully. And then if he says, Aleph Resh Zadi Hey, is he referring to himself in Ezekiel 20, verse 41? I'm going to desire, that's the way it's translated. But if I say it's talking about the aromatic fragrance, pure and clean and pleasing, then the word aretzah could be read as that attitude that we have is that fragrance. I'm going to desire proactively volunteering to run. And when it says to count, to pay off, to get restitution, is it all about me? Hey, I need to get my restitution. Or does he get restituted? Hey, why did you even invent this planet and put atoms, at least 15 billion of them, if you count from the beginning? Because he's trying to find one or two or some. He's trying to find somebody, Ish, who will give a desire to run his stuff. Listen to his voice. Sit down on his Shabbat. Keep his Moedim. Be his people. With the desire to run energetically, enthusiastically. And then the word Aleph Tav Kaf Mem. Well, Aleph Tav means with, and Kaf Mem means you in the plural, you all, with you all. But what is Tav Kaf? Tav Kaf is related to the word Tav Vav Kaf, means internally, in the midst, with you. Tav Kaf Hey is to sit down at a table with you. So Aleph Tav Kaf Mem, Aleph Tav is translated as with, Kaf Mem is you all, but you have a picture. He wants to sit down and be in our midst. Well, how does he do that? Well, he already told us he'll meet with us at the appointed time of the Shabbat and the Moedim. So then I can sit there and I say, well, then historically, for somebody, anybody, whoever it was, and to persist present tense, whoever it is, that holds within their mind and in their custom It's not the seventh day, it's the first day or some other day, and it's not the Moedim, it's ritualized pagan celebrations. That's not sitting down with him at his appointed time. It's just not. And we could say, hey, this is your worship, you better take it. You could leave it, Mr. God guy, but this is your worship and we love you with all our heart. So, and I say that because I remember I was in a worship band for a while, and one of the song's lyrics was, "This is your worship." Do we have to tell them this is our worship because it's otherwise unrecognizable? You said you wanted worshipers, and we don't know how to do that. So we're going to sing you some beautiful songs and inform you this is your worship. Hope you like it. Yeah, but he already told us to aretza, to run the Aleph Tav with him in our midst. That's the aromatic, comforting fragrance that is pleasant to his long nose, which will shrink up his nose to be that cute little thing that we want to think of him as having in our regard when he looks at us. And then there's this word, the next word, bet, hey, vav, zadi, yod, aleph, yod. Oh, it's a big word. Zadi, yod, aleph, or it's just zadi, aleph. Bet, aleph means to come in, enter, arrive. Bo, yavo, yavo. Maranatha, the Greek word, it means to come back, come in and enter. Zadi Aleph is the opposite, and here it's Zadi Yod Aleph, which means get out of here. It's foul, it's yuck, but it's also to eject, it's also to publish, it's also to spend money. It's an expenditure. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So bet, hey, vav is the three suffix or prefix letters before Zadi Yod Aleph Hey, but see, Zadi is a command. Zadi Yod, like the word Zion, is so for him to command Aleph Yod. Remember, Aleph, the first letter, his identity, his intent, his desire. Aleph Yod is one of the words that mean like right here. This whole first thing. The condition of the command, publish, export. It's the Exodus, it's go out, it's bring forth, it's taking out. Aleph, Tav, Kaf, Mem, the same word again, Mem, Nun, away from Ha'amim. So he's basically saying this fragrant sense of us running with desire, his Aleph Tav, with him at that occasion, just like he said there's going to be this Exodus out of Egypt, at just the right time. And it was to the day. Who's running the clock? It was to the day that he told Abraham it would be 430 years. It was that day that they came out of Egypt. It was all according to a certain celestial, call it a cosmic time clock. Not a moment late. So where are we now? I am going to command that you get out. I take you out. I'm going with you to take you out away from the peoples, and I will kibbutz, a kibbutz, kuf bet zadi, like a little community compound like over in the land. They have what's called kibbutz, the same word. It means to collect or gather together with you away from the lands. There it's Aleph, Resh, Zadi, Vav, Tav. But again, it's not necessarily the Aleph, Resh, Zadi, meaning the piece of real estate. I mean, it could certainly be that. But remember, if Aleph, Resh, Zadi means I will run volitionally, well, then could he be saying, and then it says that I've scattered, Nun, Pei Zadi, Tav Mem, scattered you amongst them, and I will Vav Nun, Kuf Dalet Shin Tav Yod. Well, Kuf Dalet Shin is Kadosh. I will cause or make, that's the Nun prefix. Bekam La'ainin Goyim, in the eyes, with you in your condition in the eyes of the Goyim. So to say, well, I will become sanctified in you in the eyes of the Goyim. That's that Nun, Kuf Dalet Shin. I will become sanctified. But what is the letter Nun? That's this action of the prefix, What does the letter Vav as a prefix letter mean? It means and, but it's not just and, it's but, however, when, while. It's kind of like the word Kaf Yod, Lamed Memai and Nun. It's kind of like this transition. It's like, well, who's doing what action? So I mentioned Ezekiel 36:23 the other week. I might address it again here real quick. But it says, you guys desecrated, speaking of Israel, Yahweh says, you people of Israel, my people, you guys desecrated my reputation, my name in the land. You so polluted, perverted, destroyed, it was unrecognizable. Therefore, I threw you out of the land and made you unrecognizable. Similar. And when I sent you to these other lands, there's a couple interesting verses to say, well, gosh, what kind of a guy is this? He says, the very people you loathed, you scorned, you looked down on, you degraded them, I'm going to make you go to their lands and be there. I'm going to put them over you and make them scorn you. And I can make you serve them. What? I'm going to take the very people you love to hate and make you their servants. There's a turnaround for you. He does it all the time. Your way's turned on your own head. But then in Ezekiel 36:23, here, I'm just going to look at that and address it verbatim here real quick. He says, verse 23, I will sanctify my great name. Well, there's that word, Nun, Kuf Dalet Shin. It was caused to be holy. I will cause to be regarded as sacred. My great name, that's Shem HaGadol. That's that word Gadol, like Migdal, like tower, like wonderful celebrated bastion of festooned and beribboned and bannered. That is desecrated amongst the nations that you have, that's on a continual basis, desecrated among them. Remember, he scattered them to the nations, and they were supposed to give legendary heraldry to, oh, that Elohim that we had back in the land, our forefathers really messed up, and we're here, but we're his people. We continue, our generations, when I say we, have continued to desecrate, which is to teach wrongly his identity by his Sabbath day, his Moedim, his how to pronounce his name, what is the Brit, the covenant between him and his people. The whole thing has been convoluted and continues to be. Then the nations will know that I am Yahweh, Nam Adonai Yahweh. Bam, he stamps it. Then they'll know when I become sanctified through you before their eyes. That is pronounced or spelled Bet Hey Kuf Dalet Shin. This other one was Nun Kuf Dalet Shin. So what's the difference between Bet and Nun? Well, let's look back at that word for fragrant scent. Bet, the prefix to rich. Well, bet is to put into a noun form, and then Nun Yod Het is to put into this action form. So you could say both object and action of being made kadosh in you, in their eyes. What does that mean? So I've discussed this before. I was talking to a guy years ago, and he says, hey, I think you're wrong. We're just going to be the canvas that he paints on. We will be the clay that he molds to present himself as being kadosh. We don't do anything. We just sit here doing nothing. We are just going to be the object of his messing with. You know, if he wants to glorify us, he wants to beat us up, we're just the clay in his hand. I don't read it that way. I read it of him saying, if you guys resist me, you're going to get smashed, and that'll be my reputation. But if you guys make my name kadosh in their eyes, the understanding, the calculation, because the word ayin means to weigh carefully, balance exactly, determine precisely, to look, to fathom, to analyze. It's the big eyeball, like looking at a microscope or a magnifying glass. You know, it's like, who is this guy? Who's Yahweh's avot? And if we can make him kadosh, well, what is kadosh? As he is in truth. The true meaning of the 22 letters, the true Yom HaShabbat, the true appointed times of the Moedim. The true meaning of Amen, Aleph Mem Nun, faithfulness to the truth, the Aleph Mem Tav. The truth of his grandeur to both destroy and to, you look at Ezekiel 37, Son of man, can these dry bones live? Well, you know, speak, Son of man, he said to Ezekiel in Ezekiel 37. It's interesting to just look at that phrase. 37 verse 4. And he said to me, prophesy over these bones, say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus saith Adonai Yahweh to the bones, behold, I bring a spirit unto you, and you come to life. What did he say? What he said to say to the bones was, Shema Debar Yahuwah. Shin Mem Ayin, the Dalet Bet Resh of Yod Hei Vav Hei. Well, he then spoke some more, but that was the command, Shema Debar Yahweh. That's kind of like saying Yehi Or by Yehi Or. He spoke commanding light, or Aleph Vav Resh, to exist. And what happened? Aleph Vav Resh existed. So when he says to Ezekiel, say these words, Shema Debar Yahuwah. Well, then what's got to happen? Shema Debar Yahuwah. There's something about hearing his words as the object of the command after all these years of it being unintelligible. And he goes on to say a couple verses later, what are these dry bones? And he says, these, verse 11 of Ezekiel 37, he said to me, son of man, these bones, and now these actual bones, like an actual battlefield. I heard somebody the other day, somebody on the internet, I think it was, or they were, wherever it was, they were talking, saying, well, there's going to be a battle. There's going to be a war. It might be presently over in that land. Might be Iran, might be a Hezbollah, might be a Russia coming in, might be some great, huge military conflict where there's a bunch of dead bodies and then they rot and turn into bones. That might be the Ezekiel 37 thing. But he goes on to say, son of man, these bones, they are the whole house of Israel. These bones are not necessarily Israeli soldiers living in the land today. The whole house of Israel, 12 tribes scattered across the face of the earth. And he goes on to say, behold, they are saying our bones are dried out and our hope is lost. We're doomed. So this more, rather than a physical thing, it seems like all the people of the 12 tribes scattered across the face of the earth are saying, we got nothing. Got nothing. We're doomed. The rapture hasn't happened. We got the tribulation coming down. We've got the World Economic Forum and the Illuminati and the banksters and the US, USSR, UK, UN, write in the label of your favorite group to hate, love to hate, whether it's the Vatican, whether it's Rome, whether it, what the, who, I don't know. I don't know. Who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? I don't know. But we're doomed. We're doomed. We got nothing. And he says, tell them, verse 12, say to them, thus says Adonai Yahweh, behold, I am opening your graves and raising you up from your graves. Hey, there's Pezadi, my people. And I will bring you to the soil of Israel. The soil of Israel. He's got to bring us back to the land. It hasn't happened. Somehow picking us up and carrying us up as his people is a kuf resh picture, raising us up, transporting us as his people. That's the Resh status. Then you'll know that I am Yahweh. There's that shining sheen, Elyon, wow, El Shaddai, when I open your graves and when I raise you up from your graves, my people. But is that people coming out of the graves? It might be, might be. It might be that he's going to open the graves of all the previous generations of people that was his people. That might be what's called in the book of Revelation to be the first resurrection of the righteous. Of the righteous? Of the righteous are his people, the righteous ones? Verse 14, and when I put my spirit into you and you come to life, and I set you on your soil, I'm going to put my spirit in you and you will come to life. I'll set you on your soil. Then you'll know that I am Yahweh. You'll know that I, Yahweh, have spoken and I have fulfilled. Now I'm Yahweh. See, I spoke and I fulfilled. That's his reputation. Every time he says something, he has to fulfill it. That's his reputation. If he says it and it hasn't happened yet, that's not the end of the world. We're at a break. Gosh. Okay, well, I'll have to pick this up. Let me just mention one thing here. Going down to verse 24. There will no longer be two nations, no longer be divided into two kingdoms ever again, no longer be contaminated with idols and their abhorrent things with all their sins. A couple of verses later, they will follow my ordinances, keep my decrees and fulfill them, and I will emplace them and increase them, and I will place my sanctuary among them, that's in their midst, forever. My dwelling place will be among them. I will be Elohim to them. They will be a people to me. Then the nations will know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies them when my sanctuary is among them forever. And again, the sanctuary is Mikdash, the place of the Kuf Dalet Shin. So because we have not ever come to the zone of Kuf Dalet Shin, it can't be the end of the world. This hasn't happened. Yet I know some people say, oh, it's going to take us up 7 years at a banquet, then come back and then I'll have the 1,000-year millennial reign. It's like, well, okay, that's a possibility. But what I'm saying is that what we have in front of us, if we're at Hazadi, if that's where we're at right now, then we should take hope. Just like the Talmudim, when they saw Yeshua coming out of the grave and go, wow, he's back. Death couldn't hold him. Israel's back. The dispersion wasn't the end of it. It was a way of decontaminating us to get those Elohim Akrim out of our system. Okay, we're done.
Thank you, Father, for everybody who gathered. Keep everybody safe. In Yahuwah's name I pray. Amen.